person. Come on.
Yeah, playing the role.
Yeah. Good evening. This is the regular board meeting of the Park District of Highland Park. It's called to order at, I have 6:09. Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Bernstein?
Here.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf?
Here.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Here.
And Vice President Ruttenberg and President Myers will not be in attendance
Yes,
tonight.
the flu has gone through the park board, so hope that our ailing board members feel better. Are there any additions to the agenda by any board members? Hearing none, we're going to go right to public comment. Is there anybody who would like to comment on any of the matters that are on the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll go right to the consent agenda.
Hey, Commissioner
Oh,
Bernstein?
yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Since when do we have public comment at the beginning?
We do that there's two chances for public comment.
Right.
The first chance for public comment is on items on the agenda. And we do that at the beginning of every meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we do at the end of every meeting is that we allow public comment for something that's not on the agenda.
Correct.
So the public can then comment on anything that they'd like to, that hopefully having to do with the Park District.
And have we been doing that for quite some time?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
I've been doing it since I've been on the
Thank
board.
you for the clarification,
Yeah.
because I wasn't sure, but.
A lot of boards don't do it that way. A lot of boards will have public, what they'll usually do is some boards will have comment with regard to items on the agenda when the agenda item is called, or they'll have the item for items not on the agenda, they'll do it at the beginning of the meeting. That's just traditionally how we've done it.
And some make you wait till the end of the meeting to comment.
Yeah, on anything.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Which is kind of strange when there's items on the agenda and that things are getting voted on before people have a chance to comment on, which is kind of silly. Okay. Having that, it was a good question. Having that, we're going to go right to the consent agenda. We have A through H. All these items have been either previously discussed at our workshop matter, which is our workshop meeting, or are just routine in nature. So does anybody have any comments or they want to pull any of the items for discussion? No discussion on any of the consent agenda items? Hearing no requests for discussion, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Kaplan, second by Commissioner Weiskopf. Any other comments with regard to any other discussion, any of those items? Hearing none, Kathy, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores-Weiskopf?
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Aye.
The ayes carried 3-0. I'm not going to bang this like Scott does, so so the motion passes. So the first item on the unfinished business, and first and only, is with regard to the bond sale. I believe this is just an update. And Annette.
Hello, everybody. And this is just an update. There's no action that needs to be taken this evening. I just wanted to let the board know that the 2007 bond issuance is complete. The proceeds from the bond sale were received yesterday. The winning bidder was FTN Financial, and the interest rate that we'll be paying on the bonds is 2.17%. As I noted in my memo, that's better than what we were anticipating, so we were very excited about that. Maturity on these bonds are in the year 2028, so they are going to be out there for about 10 years, a little longer. And just as a reminder, these funds and the 2016 issuance that we did this time last year, both of those are being used to support the POGO project and then the current Green Print projects, Sunset Valley Golf Course, the clubhouse, and then the rec center project. So those monies have already been earmarked for capital projects. This is all part of the master plan, the Green Print master plan, and are following our funding model. So I'm very happy to say that little project is over for now.
As the board would recall, and Lori, you were on the Green Print Committee with me, is that the two things that we undertook when we started the master planning process was, number one, identifying the projects, both in a Tier 1, Tier 2 fashion, which one we do first, which one we would do at a later date, and we also created a funding mechanism to fund the Tier 1 projects. And these bond sales were part of the the discussions, and as a result of the discussions when we did the green print plan, and these have been planned for several years, I believe. So we're just following through with the plan that we've discussed over many, many years and many, many meetings. And the I will note that the interest rate is lower than we planned. So I thank you. And
I was
we-
very pleased with that.
Yeah, very pleased with that. So it's good to hear that. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Annette? Nope. Thank you very much. And I think probably my suggestion is that I know we have a finance committee meeting coming up sometime in the future, don't we?
Our next big item will be the audit.
Yes.
So when we have that meeting, I think we could just update us on where we are with our bond issues and what we have planned in the future, so we can have that, so we can refresh the boards on that once the finance committee reports to the board with the audit. So,
Yep. Actually, that's already in the works a little bit.
okay.
And as Annette pointed out, we're not taking any action tonight, though we usually do at the board meetings versus workshop. The workshop, the procedure, isn't it, where we are given our information prior to the meeting, correct? And
Correct.
then at the workshop, a presentation is made by staff.
Right.
And then we usually have about 2 weeks before we vote on it. So it's not anything, we can discuss with individual board members, never, 3 is obviously a quorum, so we can only talk one at a time with another person. And then in that 2 weeks, we have the time to make a decision. So therefore, if something is, let's say, Commissioner Kaplan, unanimous, it's because we probably all agreed, and after, really educating
Yes.
ourselves, it's not something where it's presented to us and we vote that night. It's very carefully thought out. And when good minds
Yes.
are open to it, it's a
Yes.
wonderful opportunity for the boards to agree.
Especially on something like a bond issuance with
Or
a
anything,
long-term.
or
Oh, the
anything
bond
that
issue, we
matter.
talked about it for 3 years
Absolutely.
before we did it.
Yeah.
We've
had everything.
When is the audit? When's that? When
Oh,
we talk about May?
That's part of the treasurer's report. Should I
Oh,
just
we-
start jumping into
No,
it?
we have treasurer's report, so jump in on that, yeah.
There we go.
Segue.
How am I doing so far? My first
You're
hearing.
doing okay.
there you
You're
go.
doing okay. I really don't have much to comment on. The treasurer's report is, the financials for February are presented in your board packet. This is only the second month of the year, so there's not a whole lot of activity that is going on. The bond proceeds were budgeted to be received in February. The actual sale was completed in March. It was completed on March 20th. So February's overall revenue is understated by $9 million, so it looks a little off. And then on the flip side, the expenses, we had some capital expenditures also budgeted, like year-to-date through February, which would be related to, again, the green print and the PROGO projects. And those expenditures just haven't happened yet. We'll be getting those invoices as the projects proceed. So when you look at the financials, they look a little off, but to sum it all up, overall operations year-to-date, we're at $358,000, while the budget was at $332,000. So if I take out those two factors and look at what's really happened for the month of February, we're right on target with operations and our planning. The reason why the number is just at $358,000 is simply because we also haven't received any property taxes yet, but that also is the way it goes for February. We won't start seeing those until April and May. So the audit, to answer your question, the audit will begin on March 27th, so Monday. So my staff is working. We're just literally going through every balance sheet item, making sure that it is accurate, correct, and we have a explanation of why it is the amount it is. And we're finishing that up today and tomorrow. Once the audit is complete and the year-end numbers will be discussed at a department head meeting, and then managers and supervisors are invited to attend the 2016 year in review presentation that will happen on April 20th. Seeing is that this is still only the second quarter of the year when this information will be shared with management. If there's an opportunity to make adjustments for 2017, we'll be able to do so accordingly. So I'm happy that we've moved the budget timing out of June and into May. That gives us a little more operating room for the rest of this year. So that is my treasurer's report. Are there any questions?
Questions, comments?
Nope.
my only comment is actually to you, Liza. The Finance Committee is, myself and Scott serve as liaisons to the committee, which we are the committee, actually.
Right.
I don't know if Scott's going to want to continue in that role in May, considering he will be leaving the board in May, so maybe make an
That's
offer
true.
to any of the other board members
Well,
who they
yeah.
want to jump on the Finance Committee.
We will have our annual meeting in May, and that is typically when we can assign committee appointments.
Okay.
Or we just have to wait for the election.
Are we going to,
When is
what's
the-
audit meeting?
The audit will be presented at the main board meeting, so it
So
needs
we'll
to be
need-
presented to the Finance Committee prior to that. But in the past, that meeting has been held in the morning, and it's been a public meeting,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah, we
always
all
do
of the
that.
commissioners, it really
Yeah.
hasn't been, we call it a Finance Committee meeting, but we have set it up so that anybody can come and attend that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's subject to the Open Meetings Act, so that it is published, it is noticed. And in years past, I know that Commissioner, Vice President Ruttenberg has attended, even
He's-
though he's not on the Finance Committee,
He's
so.
very faithful in attending
Yeah.
that meeting,
So,
yes.
but I think maybe put it out there and see if
I will.
our president wants to continue to serve on that for that meeting, or if someone else wants to replace him.
Good point.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right. New business, resolution 17-01 to support the welcoming and inclusive community pledge. Liza.
So, given the current climate in which we live, and certainly, I think we've all experienced the civility, or really the lack of civility, that people seem to be showing towards people who might be different from themselves, and it's not just a Highland Park issue, it's really a nationwide issue, it's probably an international issue. And so, a lot of these discussions are taking place amongst various groups of people, and leaders in Lake County formed a partnership for a safer Lake County, and they held a summit in mid-February and invited different leaders from all units of local government to meet. And out of this summit came the desire and really a drive for all municipalities, for businesses, for homes, for everyone to really take what they're calling is the Welcoming and Inclusive Community Pledge. And so just bear with me, but the pledge itself is that I pledge to stand against hate and discrimination and affirm that Lake County should be a welcoming community for all. I am proud of Lake County's diversity. I recognize that at every level of American society, people of all backgrounds contribute to our democracy, culture, and economy. We must advance the fundamental rights and principles upon which the United States was founded, establishing the equality and dignity of all people, regardless of their background. And I condemn any verbal or nonverbal attacks, harassment, or intimidation based on race, ethnicity, color, immigration, or refugee status, religion or creed, gender or sexual orientation, age, mental or physical disability, veteran status, or other social identities, as well as discourse that disrespects or degrades people's identities, needs, and beliefs. From our schools to our neighborhoods and our government buildings, Lake County must be a place that respects our differences and believes that diverse perspectives create better outcomes. So what we are asking tonight is for the board to pass Resolution 1701, which really supports this pledge. And I can tell you that the City of Highland Park, they passed their resolution, I think, last week's meeting. The school districts have passed their pledges, and it's really something that's taking place in communities all through Lake County. In addition to that, there are posters that are being distributed throughout the community, and you've maybe seen them. Hate has no place here. So you will see us, we've been given a bunch of posters that we will display outside our facilities. And so it's really a community effort, but not just being led by municipal leadership, but it's really, we talked about it at a Rotary Club on Monday, and so it's really a movement that we really want to show that Highland Park is a very diverse community. It's a very welcoming community, as are all the other communities in Lake County. So with that, I would ask that the board would consider approving Resolution 1701 to support the Welcoming and Inclusive Community Pledge.
Any discussion? Brian?
That's a great idea.
Lori?
Yeah, I think it's mindful, and we need to be more mindful. It's sad we have to do it, but it's a good reminder.
I mean, I think we have to remember that, unlike what perception is, we have a very diverse community. And both ethnic, religious, sexual orientation, and it's mindful that we're not, people are not as sensitive as they should be. And I think that anything we can do to try to remind people tolerance
Yeah,
and
it's a good word.
inclusivity is very important. And I think I fully support what the initiatives by our county leaders. And I think it's been a wonderful suggestion that all governments in Lake County adopt the resolution as proposed. And if then no one else has any comments with regard to that, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 17-01 to support the Welcoming Inclusive Community Pledge.
Also moved.
A second.
There's been a motion to approve the resolution by Commissioner Kaplan. It's been seconded by Commissioner Weiskopf. Any further discussion with regarding this? Hearing no further discussion, Kathy, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bernstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Flores Weiskopf?
Aye.
Commissioner Kaplan?
Aye. 3 ayes, no nays. The motion carries. The resolution has been passed. Next item on the agenda is the director's report. Liza.
Okay, so we are at the in-between point in the year where winter programs are coming to an end, almost are at the end, and prepping for spring and certainly summer. So with that being said, a couple of things that I wanted to note, and I think it was at the end of last week, we sent a press statement out to the local papers, and we posted it on our website, and we are promoting that, first we're promoting that Park Avenue Beach is open for operations in 2017. The city and Park District have once again agreed that the city would manage the parking and the traffic, the Park District would handle all of the boating operations and the yacht club, and that we are promoting sales now. Sales began on March 20th for passes to launch at Park Avenue. And then we also identified that there's a safety seminar that's going to take place in May, which I will report on at the May meeting when it's a little bit closer. It's a Coast Guard initiative. But I just we want to get word out early. There was some confusion, not confusion, but we didn't come to our agreement last year in terms of how Park Avenue was going to operate. And so we wanted to get word out early this year to try and encourage people to get their passes now for Park Avenue, which is certainly open for business. And in fact, you approved the dredging bid as part of the consent agenda tonight, so
Yes, we did.
there we go.
And I knew that.
Yes, so the second item that I wanted to make note of, I'd sent this to you. We are going to be holding an open house on April 3rd here at Westridge for Kennedy Park. The Kennedy Park is a park on Clavey Road that we co-own. We own half and the school district owns half. And we have a playground that sits on that site on our part of the property. And we have scheduled that playground for removal. It is the oldest playground in our system, and it's really preventative in nature. We don't want any, we cite safety as a concern, and we want to ensure that nothing happens. Not knowing what is going to happen with the school district, and I think any of the properties that we co-own with the school district were a little hesitant to do any development, but what we wanted to do was A, make the neighbors aware that the playground is scheduled to come down, and then B, we thought it would be nice if we held an open house and invited them to come and talk about use of the playground. If, we have no specific plan, but we'd like to hear from the neighbors if it's a playground that they would continue to desire, or if there was something else they'd like to see the Park District do at that park. So we will have that meeting on April 3rd, and then we will continue to stay in, we'll keep that neighborhood in the loop in terms of what's going to happen and when going forward. But for now, we do have the Fink Park Playground, which is just about a half a mile west of Kennedy Park. But the Kennedy Park really serves that pocket of, I guess, north mid-northeast Highland Park, because you've got Brown Park on the other side of Green Bay Road. But this really is something that we had talked about replacing. We've talked about it for a couple of years, but recognize that it might not be the right time to do that, not knowing what's going to happen with the school district. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. And then turning over the Spring Leaf, we have 2 special events coming up. We have Breakfast with the Bunny that'll take place here on April 8th at 9:30 in the morning, so you can come and have breakfast, and then we're going to have a little egg hunt out in the courtyard for the little guys.
Do we have a flying
No
Easter
flying.
bunny again?
I don't
That's
think
just
so.
breakfast though, right?
This is just breakfast. And then the following week,
That's what you're talking about.
we have the
okay.
annual spring egg hunt,
Yeah.
which it begins at 10 o'clock sharp at Suns. And I do want to note, it's a location change. We are having the
Oh.
event this year at Sunset Woods as opposed to
Ooh,
West Ridge
Good
Park.
to know. We got to get that out because
Yeah.
everyone knows to come here.
Right. So that is at 10 o'clock. And for those of you who have attended this event, that if you're not there at 10:01,
You miss out.
no eggs for you. So.
No soup for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's a quick event, and we're hoping for good weather, and that is my segue to we're hoping for good weather because we are scheduled to begin work on Sunset Valley Golf Course on Monday, April 17th,
Wow. That's great.
which is
Very
something.
exciting.
And then I also just wanted to note that construction at the Recreation Center continues, and that at the May workshop meeting and subsequent workshop meetings to follow, we'll be giving construction updates on the projects that we have in the hopper. And that is my report for you this evening.
Any questions, comments with regard to that? I'll just add 2 things with regard to that. Regarding Kennedy Park, and I know that we've talked about this in connection with our 5-year capital improvement plan. We have been putting off doing improvements to that playground for a couple of years now, and for several reasons. First of all, for a while, the city was contemplating moving the
Right,
fire
I
station.
forgot about that.
They're moving the fire station and seeking a land swap, so we didn't think it was a good idea, obviously, to replace a playground where the city might come in and use it for the fire station. The other thing is that I know that there's been a lot of discussions between 112 and the Park District over the last couple of years with regarding land swaps, potentially with their future referendum, and that was one of the issues that has been discussed, is what to do with Kennedy School. And as my mom would know, I'm a graduate of Kennedy School, and where'd you go to Braeside?
Ravinia.
You went to Ravinia. Okay, so I went to Kennedy School.
There's Green Bay Road.
We have Give Me a Road, yeah.
School,
So it's I spent a lot of time in that playground, right, and that little hill there and stuff like that. So it's obviously it's something that will engage the neighbors. There's still some original homeowners over in that area on Hastings and Timber Hill and Stonegate, and so we'll figure out something, the right thing to do there once everything settles down. I know you're smiling about that.
Jody's still there.
Yeah, exactly. I think Sherry's still there, by the way. So we'll figure that out. And the last is that so I understand what's going on at Park Avenue. We're basically at status quo. It's what we did last year is what we're doing this year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Hearing nothing else, is there now? This is the last item on the agenda. It's open to the public to address the board, and this could be something that was on the agenda or something that's not on the agenda. So, members of the public, we have one member there. We have 2 members here, but one's going to speak.
So I have a question for the Park District Board. On March 13th, the City Council authorized food trucks in Ravinia by the Jen Jensen Park.
Hold on a
There will be a
second.
special marketing campaign. My question has 4 parts.
Whoa.
Did the city discuss beforehand with the Park District staff or Park District commissioners about the event? Has the Park District considered the congestion in the area due to the peak of the Ravinia festival season? Will the Park District have any tie-in to these Thursday night events? I'm thinking of extra seating or garbage cans or even an entertainment. And 4, can you estimate what the additional maintenance cost would be? I'm thinking cleanup. And will the city or the food truck vendors assume that cost, or will we?
Okay. Mr. Strauss, can you identify yourself and your address for the video?
Mike Strohs,
In your address also, please?
580 Hillside Drive.
Thank you. All right, so you asked a lot of questions.
Sorry.
Okay, but let's take the first question. What was the first question?
So, you know, basically, did you guys have conversations with the city before they passed this initiative? I mean, and I'm saying you guys, meaning the board or the staff?
I know
Or was
that-
it just
I know the
sort of
board didn't, but I.
Yeah, you know, we worked with the city on the Ravinia, it's the French Market, I think they call it at Ravinia, and we worked with them on it last year. We have not had any conversations with them about the food trucks in this year's event. I think we may have just, I think Carolyn Hirsch might have just reached out to talk to us about it.
When we went to that
Um,
meeting.
Yeah,
Dan
after,
Ross
I
and
think, maybe a week or two ago, we heard from them, so.
So basically, you didn't hear from them beforehand, and that's fine. I just
Yeah.
was curious as to whether, so that kind of makes the second question moot. You guys didn't really consider about Ravinia Festival going on because you didn't know about it. And the food trucks are different from the French Market, which was something that added a lot of congestion down in the Ravinia section last year with everybody trying to park and get to the festival. Do you have any plans to tie in? I mean, obviously, the food trucks are parking on the street, not in the park, but obviously, people are going to take food and eat it in the park, and we're going to have any tables, garbage cans, any of those kinds of things set up for them.
And that's where the market comes in, because they have some vendors who sell crafts and whatnot, and we've let them use the park to do that. So we have just been approached by the city, and we have not had any formal conversations with them yet.
Gotcha. And so that brings up the final issue about cost. Will the cost of cleanup and trash cans and things like that be a city burden, a food vendor burden, or a park district burden?
Those will be discussed when we meet with the city.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So are they actually using Jensen Park for this?
They
or
used
is this-
Jensen Park to have the vendors sell their crafts last year.
That's the same thing with the farmer's market too, correct?
Yeah, with the,
Yeah.
but this is a Thursday night event. See, and just by way of a little bit of background, there has been a movement to try and get more activity in the Ravinia district because the businesses there, you know, they just want to try and grow that area. And so the North Shore, or the Highland Park Community Foundation, was one of the sponsors for 2 years ago. They had music in the park on Saturday. So it was just little vendors. They used to just, I guess, hang out by the coffee shop that's in town there.
Yes.
But they asked if they could move to the park. So we let them do so without amplified music, and just something that seemed a nice way of bringing the community together. And then that idea was met with medium success, and then there was further discussion and the idea of the whole French market and having something in the evening for people to come and, you know, have some food and check out the crafts and some entertainment in the area. So last year was the first year for that, and we worked with them on setting up tables and whatnot in the parks and making sure that their vendors were set up in the park. And I believe that was a very well-received idea, obviously to the extent that they've grown the idea for this year. But we just have not sat down and had any further conversations with them. But typically, if we, depending upon what the ask is of the park district, we obviously want to keep costs to a minimum, or if it's a case of a vendor, share that cost with them.
Before you ask the next question, did we have any issues with regard to the use
No.
last year?
No, and we were pretty particular about where and what type of vendors could be in the park with what type of equipment, because we were conscious of any damage to the turf in the park. So, but it went well last year.
Okay, all right, Mike, go ahead.
So just as a point of clarification, it's my understanding, though, we're not dealing with vendors here, we're dealing with food trucks exclusively. I'm not aware that there are any vendors coming to do knife sharpening or pottery or those kinds of things. It's people selling tacos and...
And they're doing that on the street, and that's the city's jurisdiction.
Sure,
So,
understood.
but I do believe that we are having conversations. I've got to go back and look. I haven't looked that closely at the correspondence that we got, but I do think they're still hoping to have some crafts.
Not
but
the
we'll
resolution
confirm
that
that.
was passed, though. The resolution was passed.
That was for the trucks on the street. This is their little thing that they do in the park and in the surrounding area. So, more to follow.
Okay, thank you.
And when's the first?
Oh, it won't be until sometime in June.
Okay, so you'll work it out with the
Yeah.
city?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
No, we do
Okay.
that.
All right, is there anybody else from the public who wants to speak in any matters not on the agenda or not on the agenda? Hearing none, I don't believe we have closed session tonight, right?
Nope.
So having no closed session, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, which I usually make, but I can't do it because I'm chairing, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.